Gary Gross, Jim Hall,
Present.
Todd Moore, here. Christopher Ambergy, present. Jerry Heidenreich,
Here.
David Cash, here. Stephen Wanamaker.
Here.
All right, could you guys please make sure your mics are on? And then you have quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Moore, I forgot to put the slide in for the minutes.
Next on the agenda is the minutes from our last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Or need any corrections, additions to the minutes? Seeing none? Mr. Ma-
I would move that the minutes be accepted as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Wanamaker,
Yes.
Mr. Cash,
Yes.
Jerry Heidenreich,
Yes.
Christopher Ambergy,
Yes.
Todd Moore,
Yes.
Jim Hall.
Yes.
Okay, this brings us to our case this evening, 423. Before we get started, Mr. Cash will swear.
Oh, yeah. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the true self you got?
I do.
1, 2. There we go. Not sure my microphone was on at that time. So, okay. This is a request by applicant Craig Abercrombie for an approval of an area and dimensional variance for the property located at 1315 Elliott Drive. Mr. Metz, I'll let you give the details.
Thank you. Tonight before us, we have a request for an area and dimensional variance at 1350 Elliott Drive, also known as the Arby's. The property is zoned B2 Community Business District. The variance requested is for the removal of a stacking lane curb where the Middletown Development Code states when stacking lanes are separated from other stacking lanes, bypass lanes, or from other site areas, the separation shall be by means of a raised concrete median, concrete curb, or landscaping. The property is zoned B2, Community Business District. The purpose of the B2 Community Business District is to provide for areas of the city that will contain a wide variety of commercial and office uses to meet the needs of the city and region that require access to major arterial streets and are in close proximity to major residential neighborhoods. As you can see here to the south, this is Roosevelt Boulevard. We have Elliott Drive coming up, and this is the Arby's Tractor Supplies up over here.
That's all right. You're good. You're good.
So the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120805 or 121805, vehicle stacking space requirements B2 states when stacking lanes are separated from other stacking lanes, bypass lanes, or from other site areas, the separation shall be by means of a raised concrete median, concrete curb, or landscaping. As you'll note, this Arby's has been there for as long as I can remember. There is a single drive-through there currently. The reason that this section of the code is taking place is because they're wanting to add an additional drive-through lane, which would then require the raised concrete median, curb, or landscaping. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests, meeting notice letters for the proposed variance were sent to all property owners directly across the street and the public right-of-way. No comments were received. The area and dimensional variance review criteria. The following factors shall be considered and weighed by the BZA to determine practical difficulty. Whether special conditions or circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land or structure involved and which are not applicable generally to other lands or structures in the same zoning district. Examples such special conditions or circumstances are exceptional irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, or steepness of the lot, or adjacency to nonconforming or inharmonious uses, structures, or conditions. Whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Whether the special conditions or circumstances are a direct result from the actions of the applicant, his or her agents, or prior property owners. Whether the variance is substantial and is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land or structures. whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water, sewer, electric refuse pickup, or other vital services, whether special conditions or circumstances exist as a result of actions of the owner, whether the property owner's predicament can feasibly be obviated through some method other than a variance, whether the spirit and intent behind the code requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting a variance, whether the granting of the variance requested will confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this regulation to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. No single factor listed above may control. Not all factors may be applicable in each case. Each case shall be determined on its own facts. Appeals. Any person or entity claiming to be injured or aggrieved by any final action of the Board of Zoning Appeals has the right to appeal the decision to the Court of the Common Pleas as provided in Ohio Revised Code Chapters 2505 and 2506. Just to reiterate, we did see a similar case 2 months ago with a coffee shop right down the road. Just want to make it clear that just because you approved one application doesn't mean you need to approve another, but there is a similarity with both projects. In addition, there is also a text amendment that's moving forward, or that has been talked about internally. And I believe this board may have mentioned at the last meeting, there was a text amendment to change this portion of the text. So that's going to be in our new business tonight. And that the applicant is here, and that ends my staff report.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Metz before we open the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Mr. Cash will swear you in. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, right there, and I'll swear both of you in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Craig Abercrombie with Abercrombie & Associates. We're civil engineers and land surveyors. We do all the local RBs for restaurant management. I'm with Jack Jones from Restaurant Management, who came all the way up from Chattanooga in the rain.
Tough drive
It is, I know.
today.
So, yeah, it's pretty simple. You know, they're going to the double drive-throughs since even really before COVID. You were kind of heading down that path of, you know, people just don't want to go inside and eat anymore, and so the drive-through needs have expanded. And then since COVID, obviously, they're around 85% of your business is going through the drive-through. So when I add a double drive-through here, there's plenty of room, but putting a median in would just be difficult. Customers are going to try to jump the curb. They're going to tear the curbs up. They're going to tear their cars up. It's going to kind of be hard to get into the escape lane if there's a curb there. So that's really kind of the basics of it.
So if I understand correctly, Mr. Metz, could you put that back, the overhead? There we go. Of course, I eat there kind of regularly, so I know how this works.
I have some ones that we've done prior, pictures, if you would like to see those.
Let me ask a couple. Is it just, I'm just curious, there's a reason that and of course I think maybe the city planning department is considering some kind of a revision of this requirement, but I'm trying to think, is the objection to putting the raised concrete median in there just simply because obviously that can be painted yellow and people are not going to jump across a yellow median if they see it. Is the objection just simply because y'all don't want to put it there?
No, sir.
I mean, I'm just curious. I don't see people jumping over that curb and doing anything
They do it all the time.
squirrely.
They do it all the time. We've actually did one of the stores where we just got rid of the bypass lane altogether because, you know, it was just too tight to put that in. So, but in Wilmington, Ohio, I have one that we had a concrete 6-inch concrete barrier there, and people would jump it all the time. They would get tired of being in line.
Wasn't that their problem and not yours?
It's on
I
our
mean,
property, yeah, and then
you know,
get torn up,
I
and
get-
then we get bad
I guess I
news.
get, I guess I get a little frustrated over us trying to accommodate people's impatience.
Right, I understand.
I mean, it seems to be what the motivating force here is, that people will be jumping in front of other cars just over the curb. Well, you know, if they do that, their car gets damaged. I mean, it's, anyway.
I
I
understand
just,
where you're coming
I'm
from.
curious, have you been around Middletown to see where other bypass lanes have been installed?
I
And
actually drove all the stores recently and did overviews of it, and the only one that I have seen that has the bypass, or the medium, and it's only at the boards themselves, where the boards themselves is the Dairy Queen.
Okay.
That's the
Because
only,
it's-
that's the only one I've seen in the city. So I
Because
looked at McDonald's and all of them.
Because there appears to be plenty, if I recall, there appears to be plenty of space there. It's not like there's a need for additional space, because if you're gonna have a bypass lane, you don't want cars sideswiping anybody anyway,
Yeah,
but,
we're removing the parking down that side,
yeah, right,
as you
right.
see.
Right.
That gives us the additional space. And,
Right.
but it, what is it, 16 feet, if that best, or what's those lanes? Two 10-foot lanes and then
They're in the low 13s. yeah.
low 13.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it is, you know, pretty tight. You put another 6 inch or a foot into that, you're getting everything really tight.
Do you have other stores where, maybe should be talking to you, sir?
Yes,
Are there other stores where you've been required to put a median in for a stacking lane?
none. We've done 4 of them so far. Right now, 85% of our business is through the drive-through.
Okay.
And one of the main reasons is to keep the cars from stacking up in front of the entrance,
Right.
okay, or out into the
Well,
street.
that's the purpose for 2 lanes to
Yeah.
come into the,
Yeah, it's a safety reason to put the 2 lanes in, to keep them from stacking all the way out into the street or blocking the entrance. 'Cause
Yeah,
they have done that before.
I mean, I do all the local, I probably done 25 Arby's for restaurant management in Cincinnati area and never put a median, never put a curb in on the bypass. It's always been striping. And you have what, 70 stores?
Yeah, we own and operate 68 restaurants in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia.
okay.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
You are eliminating the parking where I always park to go to your.
You're gonna have to go on the other
Sorry about
side, see over there
Well,
on the east side.
the trouble with the other side of it is you gotta cross the cars that are locating at the window and around the corner. How are you gonna facilitate people crossing through that area?
Don't we have we're putting the handicap over there
Handicap's moving to the back.
to the back.
Right,
okay.
right.
I can put, I mean, we've done this before where we've put actual crosswalk stencil. I can show you that also. Here. This is some of the examples.
Oh, that's just,
I don't want to interrupt, but anything you share with them becomes public record, and I'll have to have a copy. Okay.
Yeah, you can. I think I've had enough copies for everybody. But yeah, if you know.
Up with 2. Make sure he has one.
Yeah, just for the record. Thank you.
Do you find that people recognize that and leave it vacant when they're in the line?
Oh, yes, yes.
I'll have to watch myself again. I heard you speak to the fact that you want to shorten the lines that extend many times past the rear end of the building there. I understand that. Is there anything that speeds up the service by doing that?
Oh, yes, we've also, doing that, we've changed the, I guess, the kitchen to the point to where we've put a table in and double headsets and everything, and it does speed up the whole process. And the table's already been installed in that restaurant. It's
But
a-
it's still a single window where the person
Yes,
takes the
yeah.
money and serves the food and drinks, whatever.
I mean, it's something that, that chicken place does very well, and we've been trying to, catch up to them.
The chicken place. Is that Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, it's like,
Oh, no.
you catch him,
The one
that's
that
pretty
shall not
good
be named.
business, yeah, that's fine. Well, okay, that's all I have to ask at this point, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just so I'm understanding this, it says proposed type 6-inch concrete curb in your photos here. Is that what we're talking about where you place the orders?
I think they want, what they're talking about is a curb here.
No, I'm talking about on your drawing here.
Yeah, that's actually 8 foot, or is it 6 foot wide?
Where,
Where the board goes, where the menu board goes. Where the outer board.
for the outer board.
That's what the A's are, correct?
Yeah, correct, the new menu board.
So this drawing doesn't have the proposed curb put into it?
No, that drawing is something, or that, no.
The drawing that's up here? Okay. That answers my question.
And the reason for the request, it's not cost at all, it's very minimal cost.
Yeah,
It's
very
just the long-term
It'll get
headaches and
run over,
maintenance issues.
broken, I mean, the
Well,
curb,
I'll have to say, if you're in line and the guy in front of you has some sort of issues with his car and you're stuck there with a curb that inhibits you from leaving, that's maybe to being a little impatient that Dave mentioned, but that happens.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, gentlemen.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, real
Yes, sir.
quick. Just want to touch on 2 points that I spoke with the applicant on previously, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason for this variance request was for 2 safety factors. The first was to shorten the line, because if you've ever been there, this line can get fairly long and come and block this entrance, which is a safety hazard. And then additionally, if you're on the interior lane, having it a raised curb, not being able to get out in case of an emergency is also an issue as well. So when I initially spoke to the applicant, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, there was those 2 safety concerns is what prompted the application for the variance. Okay.
Read that in the application itself. and-
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Metz. Well, seeing no one to speak in opposition, we'll now close the public hearing, deliberate on the outcome.
Well, can I ask Mr. Metz, he indicated something in new business. Is this stacking lane issue something that the planning commission is considering eliminating from the zoning code?
This was something that I believe it was either last meeting or the meeting before with the other business that wanted to remove the stacking lane curb. We talked about possibly doing a text amendment. I brought that back into the development committee. We met actually this afternoon. I spoke to them. There was interest in if the board wanted to do a text amendment to either remove it or alter it in some capacity, that they would be supportive of that. And then I was just going to bring that up as new business.
And are you privy to what the rationale for the stacking lane requirement was when initially enacted? I don't want you to guess, obviously.
Right. At this point in time, I don't have a clear answer. Generally, when we do large text amendments, I mean, this could have happened from a consultant. This could have happened from, I'm not exactly sure.
I would say when the code was updated, I know that there was a number of folks that reviewed the code. It was brought before Planning Commission, prior planner, stacking lanes.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there were, good God, how many committees and how many people involved, and, I mean, to revisit that or attempt to revisit it here,
Yeah.
I
Well, I
think
think
it's
the
kind of
code, I
ludicrous.
think they brought model code in from other, the last consultants brought that in, I believe, into the code. and it could have borrowed some of the language. I'm not sure if it borrowed some of the language from our prior code, but it certainly brought in the new code. Yeah. I will ask if we could look at the hardship criteria, just for the record. I know in the application itself that safety was raised as a concern. Mr. Metz, you've also indicated that. I think practically, if we're looking at this, it's not unreasonable to look at this as a safety concern. Just wanted to align that in some way with hardship criteria. I was going to suggest let's look at number 4 and 5. The minimum necessary. Any suggestions regarding the hardship criteria?
I would also suggest that number 9 is where I believe the spirit and intent is still there.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion for approval and cite the hardship criteria?
I'd move to approve the variance as submitted, citing hardship criteria number 9 as my main criteria.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Jim Hall,
Yes.
Todd Moore,
Yes.
Christopher Ambergy,
Yes.
Gary Heidenreich,
Yes.
David Cash,
Yes.
Stephen Wanamaker.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Have a safe trip back.
Yeah.
Smart man.
And don't you dare get rid of those turkey clubs.
That Wagyu, yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a safe trip, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Older new business, yes.
tonight for new business, it's already been previously mentioned. We did talk about the meeting with the previous coffee company with removing the stacking lane requirement or altering it into some capacity. It was kind of up in the air when we met at that meeting. I told you I would take it to the development committee, see what the staff support was. Today, I did speak with them this afternoon. They said that they would be, interested or supportive of whatever decisions that you would be interested in making. You could request a text amendment, which then I would take and then take to the next planning commission meeting as long as I had 30 days to do the legal notice, et cetera. And then it could be a board-inspired text amendment.
I would be in favor of the text amendment.
Yeah, I'm curious, and of course, if we've borrowed this from from other sources for coding, I can understand the purpose of a raised median for stacking lanes, and then yet I can understand the reason for not having stacked lanes or curbs for stacked lanes. It seems like we're finding that the review criteria is being met in several of these, and it's only been 2 I think we've had for stacking, but we found.
There was one previous,
Was
there was
there one
another
previous?
Arby's on Verity Parkway.
Okay,
That was earlier
Yeah,
this
yeah,
year, earlier last year.
yeah. And I mean, I would be agreeable as, I don't know whether, I don't know what the mechanics are for us to present to the planning commission a proposed textual amendment. But I think maybe the stacking, the median requirement for stacking lanes really is something that's unnecessary.
And to follow that, I would say that it would be an easy enough amendment where you could even just add on the end of the same list of possible uses such as concrete curb, landscaping, any visible demarcation as that's appropriate, and add 5 more words and it makes everything easier.
Exactly. You could, you know, there could
can
be a
still do it.
required,
They can still
there
do it
could be
immediately.
a required lining on the concrete or the asphalt, which would be visible to facilitate that separation of lanes merging into one. Yeah.
Well, to follow that up with your question, if you don't know how the process would go, I would, after you proposed it, I took it back to the development committee. We're now having a discussion, you're having a discussion, and I'm just kind of making notes. You could give me an idea of what you'd like it to see, just like Stefan did, and that I would be able to bring that to their next meeting with the exact changes made. So I could have a slide of new business, old business, and you could say, chapter 12, 1805 states this, and then below that I could have it showing what the new text amendment would indicate, which is, or any other demarcation as necessary or whatever, and then we could have conversation. And then after that, I would bring it to the next planning commission meeting. I would inform planning commission that it was inspired by Board of Zoning Appeals due to a high number of cases or several cases that have requested this variance and you no longer feel it necessary. And then if planning commission then approves it, we'll go to city council, and then if city council approves it 30 days after that, we'd make a text, we'd change the development code.
I have just one comment. I don't know why they came up with that or where it originated and whatever. The only thing is when we amend this thing, I would like to see that it's not required or restricted. It could be based on situation that if the person wants to put one in, the code should not discriminate totally against it, I don't think.
I don't think it would. I think the code would set forth the bare minimums, which I think Stefan has mentioned. I think that's a real good idea. Some kind of a visual demarcation between lines is, for most of us as we drive, is sufficient anyway.
That makes sense.
And you don't, and if they want to put a curb in, I mean, nothing would prevent them from putting something, a curb or landscaping or whatever they might want, the owner might want to do, but the minimum requirement would be some visual demarcation. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, not a lot of
Good idea.
language change,
Yeah.
just a addition to.
yeah.
Sounds great. Do we need a motion or anything for that, or is this just the discussion itself enough?
No, I think it's just a discussion, and I believe next week, I need to go back and confer, but I may need to have you vote on that text amendment. I'm not exactly sure at this point in time, but once I bring it back, I will know for certain whether or not you have to vote. And if you do have to vote for it, then I'll let you know at that point in time.
The final approval comes from the staff itself, right?
No, so it would come through both planning commission and city council. So we can have board-inspired text amendments, so Board of Zoning Appeals, Historic Commission, Architecture Review Board, Planning Commission, or we have staff-inspired, which would generally be senior leadership. And then we could have also city council-inspired text amendments.
Good.
I guess that brings us to adjournment, correct? Okay.
Correct.
All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
I think, did he need a copy?
He's got it.
Mr. Miss, did you get a copy?
Yeah, he got a copy. All right. Way to go.